leader equation. This is going to look super different on video and everywhere because we've got all of your amazing faces here. But Christy and I really felt strongly that we needed to do a really special episode here, and we've taken a little bit of time to regather our thoughts on the leader equation and see where we're headed. But this is a special episode, and it's episode number 17. So you've got Linzee Ciprani with you and Christy Grossman. And I am the CEO of Ciprani Consulting. We're the top recruiting and consulting firm in the country for all things real estate. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Christy Grossman, CEO of Ops Boss Coaching, the ultimate resource for training and coaching for real estate ops bosses. And welcome to this special edition of the leader equation. We are excited to be able to talk about this because it's something that we've started to see over and over again, and we're calling it the avoid exodus because that's what we're seeing is a mass exodus of talent from our industry. And both of us are seeing it in very different worlds, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before I do, Christy, just in case people don't know who you are, give us a brief little who you are, how they might know you, walk us through what you do and what Ops Boss Coaching does, and then I'll do the same and we'll kind of get into the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Linzee and I are so excited. This is a long overdue, very important conversation. So I'm super excited about doing this. And by the way, it's episode 17 of season 2. So if you want to go back, we've had some great guests. Feel free to do that. So I'm Christy Grossman. For those of you who don't know me, I am the founder, owner, and CEO of Ops Boss Coaching. We provide education, coaching, and community for operations bosses in real estate and real estate related industries. My background is that I was COO of one of the nation's top teams, one of the first teams to do $1 billion in sales. I did that for 23 years, and now I have a team around the country that coaches, teaches, trains all the things, operations, that I'm super, super passionate about the power of this role and what it can do for people and their businesses. So there's my background. Linzee, tell us, for those who don't know you, about your background.
Yeah, Christy and I met years ago, 11 years ago, we found out the other day. Yes. And we were passionate about operations in the real estate field. And back then there were not very many classes for us. There weren't breakouts for us. So we were kind of paving the way, and we were on a panel together, and both of us vowed to do something great in this industry at some point for operations professionals. And so fast forward to now, I own Ciprani Consulting. We are the top hiring firm for all things real estate, is what we say. And we now hire for outside of real estate as well. Please keep yourself muted too as you guys come in. But we take people through a career visioning process. And then what I say, we've got it Cipranified too. There's a Ciprani piece to that. And then what we do is we come alongside of people and we train them. And then we send them to people like Ops Boss to be coached because we just believe that training was something that was really missing in our field. Agents just don't have the time to come alongside of you guys and create systems and processes, and that's what we love to do. So that's who we are. Just in case you're showing up for the first time and you don't know us, we wanted to make sure that we gave you guys that piece of information. But Christy, take us into the conversation, and just so everybody knows, here's what's going to happen. We have the chat up. If you're watching live on Facebook, I would tell you register and get in here so that you can actually chat with us, because we will not be watching the Facebook comments as much. I will try to look at those a little bit, but we will have, feel free to put questions in here, anything you want. You can private message us as well. We will see those. If you are on with somebody else, you don't want them to see your comments or your thoughts, private message, and we'll answer those questions. So don't feel afraid to do that. The next piece that I want you to know is that we will leave time at the end for some questions, because there's a lot going on right now. Christy and I have a lot of people coming to us and aren't happy with some of the messaging that we've got going out too. And so we're going to address some of that too, but there is this mass exodus that we are seeing from the industry of operations professionals from real estate. And so Christy, walk us through, what are you seeing and kind of
So
start us here.
here's what Lindsay and I have been chatting behind the scenes, and I see lots of faces on this call that I know who are ops bosses, and I also see lots of awesome business owners on this call. So thank you guys for coming, because I know you're passionate about this the way we are. So what we thought we would do is share some stories with you. Here are some examples of some of the things we're seeing in the industry. I asked Lindsay if she'd give us a few statistics of what she's seeing on her end. Why is it important? Why do we care about retaining our talent, right? And then we're going to give you some signs that your ops boss may be thinking of leaving. And then we're going to end with some solutions, and then we'll do questions and answers. So I was thinking back, Linz, and I was actually thinking, like, when did this kind of start? And I actually, it was pre-COVID. We're all thinking it kind of came from COVID. And I remember Gary Keller talking about when shift happens, changes are often already happening that are accelerated by whatever the shift is. And so what I believe is the pandemic accelerated this shift, but this started happening prior to. And I was thinking back, and I'm really proud at OpsBoss that we have a really high retention rate of our coaching clients. And the few times that we lose people, it's because they're leaving their team or they're leaving the industry. And so I was thinking back about one of our clients from 3 years ago. And at the time, she was making $60,000 on her team. She was very seasoned in real estate. She was very talented. And she wasn't actually out looking for a job, but an opportunity came her way and she realized she was unhappy. And she went back to her team owner. And this is a Gary Keller mastermind team, one of the top teams in the nation, still one of the top teams in the nation. They're an awesome team. And she tried to have a conversation about earning more money, getting more opportunity, contributing more to the team. And she ended up leaving the industry, and she got a job offer. And I can't remember, it was either NIH or one of the, in a totally different industry, for 120,000. She has since been promoted twice and earns way more money than that. And I thought, here's this talented person with experience in the industry, and we just lost her. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. I know you've got some stories from some of the people that you're placing, right? Tell us.
Yeah, we do. And you know, let me expand on what you just talked about too, right? Because a lot of people come to us, right, Christy, and they say, hey, what is my person worth? Or we have ops bosses coming to us saying, what am I worth? Right? They truly don't know. And I always look at somebody and I'm like, okay, so let's talk about what your operations professional did, right? What does your ops boss do when they came into the business? So chances are you're a salesperson and you're really good at sales. And this person started to manage you, manage all of the chaos that was happening. They created systems and processes through the use of CRMs, right? They track all of your finances. They are creating lead plans and lead, you know, what I'm going to say, flows, right? And then they are also doing contract to close. They're probably creating onboarding and training materials, and sometimes like Google sites and huge manuals and all these things, right? So my question to people is, what do you think people outside of this industry would pay somebody that can literally show them, here's my onboarding and this is how I took through everybody through it, and here was, you know, here are my manuals and here are the video manuals that go along with this. What do you think this is truly worth outside of real estate? And many people would pay that person as an operations manager or director of operations, COO, C-level, right? Lots of money. And that's the part that I think you and I really struggle with. And that's what we're seeing at a high level.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting that you say that. So that on the one hand, I 100% agree, money matters, right? Because they're talented people, they're worth the money, they can make more money. And at the other side of the coin is the people that, the stories that we're sharing, most of these people didn't leave over money.
That's true.
Most of the ones that I know did not leave over money. They left over growth, opportunity. They wanted to do more. They wanted to learn more. They wanted to be more. They wanted to have some sort of counterbalance of life, even if it's not life balance. There's different reasons people are leaving, right? So, And what other stories? Any other stories you want to share?
Yeah, so what I want to do is tell a story. Then I kind of posted this about, about this on my Facebook. So if people saw it, I apologize, but I'll tell you the actual story. We've hired a number of people just a couple months ago. And when they come into our program, we teach them how to build the systems and the processes, and we give them a lot of those tools. Well, fast forward 6 months after we do training and we ask them to go, obtain some coaching after that. When we release some of these people, the people within their offices have seen what they've done, right? They see them putting the 36 touch in place, the 10-year post-buyer plan, all of those things. And people are going in and swiping those people that we have hired and trained because there's nobody else in the industry that they can swipe. So they see that person and they go and take them. And so that is actually, we've had that happen now a number of times, to the point where it's something that we've got to actually even look at. Right? Because the person that you bring in, say you bring in somebody at 40,000, 50,000, and again, it's not all money, but we're going to talk about money because that's something that we get asked all the time. So that's why we're starting there. But if you bring somebody in at 40 to 50,000, what we're seeing is people turning around and paying that same exact person 6 months later, 55, 60 to swipe them. That is a big jump because now they have experience.
Right.
And that's just
and then you add on top of that, so now they have experience, someone else swipes them, they have experience, and they may not have necessarily had the greatest experience on the work-life balance. So I was sharing with Lindsay before the call that an ops boss in our community who is a seasoned ops boss is looking for a new opportunity. And I had a rainmaker reach out to me and say, will you please share this job profile with her, because we would be really interested in talking to her. And we looked at the job description, and the job description literally said 1 week vacation with the opportunity to earn 1 additional day per year after the first year, which means that at year 5, you would finally have earned 2 weeks vacation. And this is for someone they were looking to talk to who had 10 plus years experience in the industry leading a real estate team. There's some sort of disconnect there. And so those are the stories I think that kind of we're seeing. And then I can tell you, my phone blew up. Did your phone blow up?
It did.
Right?
Yeah.
My phone blew up because I posted about the story of, we had a client who left for a $120,000 job. It happened to be from 3 years ago. My phone blew up saying, are you talking about my ops boss? Is my ops boss going to leave? And all I could think was, why are you asking me? You should have this conversation with them, right? This is the conversation that's missing. And your phone was blowing up. Why was your phone blowing up?
Yeah, because, I think that, because people are worried that one, I have my finger on the pulse, right? If somebody's going to leave, if they know me, they're reaching out to me and they're letting me know, and they want me to help them find the right opportunity and the right leader, right? So that's the first thing. So people got really worried when you and I were talking about that. Who is it? Is it mine? Are you helping them get another job? What's going on? Which maybe.
And maybe for you, not for me. Let me just be clear about that,
true.
because we have a coaching relationship with rainmaker and client. So if we have a client that says that they are going to leave, or they've gone on a job interview, we will tell them, you need to have that conversation with your rainmaker, and we'll hold you accountable to having that quickly so that we don't have to have the conversation. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Right. That is not happening with me. We will talk to you and have that conversation. We are a recruiting company. And so we'll have that conversation. Now, at the end of the day, my hope, if we did some training with that person and we're in a relationship, my hope is that I can convince them to go have that conversation with their boss. And they should try to, bridge that gap and try to figure out how can they all stay together and partner together if they've been together for a number of years. And so we always try to do that and help them in those conversations. And so I will also say that. But a lot of people were really worried that, hey, are you swiping mine? What's going on? And again, just like Christy said, my conversation back is, And my comments back are, you should know, you should be meeting with them. You should know. And we'll talk about ways that you can have those conversations, towards the end here, and what you can look for if there's a problem there. But the truth is, anybody who's on here that's an employer, if you're worried, there's like a gut thing that I think happens with us, right? And a lot of us try to ignore that, but I think we know sometimes if there's a problem. Most times.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the signs.
Yep.
I want to throw one more thing in before we move on to that section, which is, I call it the paradox of wanting the person that moves as fast as you do.
Yep.
So when I'm thinking about what do I see in common with some of the talent that has left the industry, they partnered with someone who they really love. They really liked working for them most of the time they worked together, and then they hit a ceiling because they were actually not necessarily your typical SC personality. So the more seasoned you are in real estate on the ops side, there's a difference between an entry-level EA, director of operations, COO. And if you're a growth-oriented person and you're moving up, you want to continue growing. So you're partnered with this visionary, you're building a business together. And then at some point, maybe the business isn't growing as fast as you would like it to, or the rainmaker is happy with where they're at and isn't pushing as hard as they were, and the person still wants to grow. So when you want to get in business, because we hear rainmakers say this all the time, I want a DOO who can move fast like me or can keep up with me or whatever. You have to be prepared to continue to grow and push and build as much as they do. Because if you pull in a driver on your team and you're not moving fast, they're going to go on to the next opportunity.
That's right. Well, and like I said before, like, we can't think that, and I'm going to speak to the bosses in here right now and the leaders that are leading their teams. You can't possibly think that people aren't saying to somebody else that they see that is talented, hey, if you ever become unhappy, like, that's what salespeople do. So if we really think that salespeople aren't doing that regularly, then we're crazy. And then that leads to conversations or questions in somebody's head of, well, what am I worth? What do I want? And we're trying to teach them to grow, and we're pushing them to grow. And at some point, if we're not continuing to grow and take things to the next level, and our vision's not big enough, our world's not big enough, they may go have that conversation with the person that was like, hey, if you're ever wanting a different opportunity, right? And boom, there it is.
And most of these people are very loyal, actually, and really want to be in business with their rainmaker. They really like them and they're very much connected to them. And they don't always even necessarily realize they're looking for another opportunity until that person knocks on the door. And then it's like the seed of discontent is planted, and oh, wow, they have a bigger vision. There's more opportunity for growth here. Maybe I should listen to that, right?
Yes, yeah.
And give us the statistics. I know, like, why is this important? Okay, my ops boss leaves. Maybe I'll just top grade and get someone new. Like, what are the statistics?
Well, and I love how you started the conversation, Christy, because you started it with, something you had heard from Gary Keller, where he was saying that, it accelerates everything. I do believe that COVID accelerated something that we already saw was happening. It just wasn't on a macro level yet, right? And I think that COVID really sparked that. And I think we don't need to talk about it at the moment, but we will talk about it here at some point. Everything that happened with COVID, we sent people home. We sent the SC personalities of the world home, right? A lot of SCs, in different parts of that, like there's different discs within that, even DCs, anything with C, we sent them home. They got used to being home, right? They're habit forming people. They got used to being home. And then we were like, come on back. And it was like, wait, what? And so I do think that thrusted us into this place of people really reevaluating their wants and their needs. And people made decisions to exit from the industry because they were seeing us as a sales community want to be back together again, right? And that's what we're going to talk about are the stats. So they go along with that. So right now, I can tell you that 99% of our jobs, so we just made some hires, but 99% of the jobs that we have are in person. Most salespeople do not want to not be around people, right? They want to be around people. They want their team to be there. They want to be able to hear what's happening. The hustle and bustle makes them, it makes them happy, right? And so if we know that that's how many people want jobs that with in person, but then I've got all of these candidates online that only want to be virtual, then that's a stat we have to actually look at, because if you lose your ops boss that's currently in your office and operating at a high level, and we can only find people that are virtual and want to be virtual later that actually have experience, there's a gap there, right? And then I spoke to Inman the other day, and this is the biggest one. And this is where Christy and I really started to see this, and it accelerated through COVID. I have 60 some jobs open right now. And of that, there's about 12 to 15 with experience. So experience, let's not say 6
Wait,
months.
stop. I want to make sure
Yes.
everybody got that, because I was like, when you first said that, I was like, wait, you have 12 applicants with
In
experience
all of the
and
jobs.
60 openings for people with experience.
Yes. And that's a huge problem, right? Now, I do want to say experience in my language means 3+ years of like being in a team, being an executive assistant, right? I might look at 2 years and
Seasoned in
more.
real estate.
Yeah. Not somebody who has their licenses, never used it, right? Or somebody in property management. That's not what I'm talking about. So we do have some of those applicants, but if we know that there's that big of a disconnect and those are what the stats are right now, then there's a problem, because where'd they all go? And they split.
And it also means that the ones who are still here, this is a two-way interview. So rainmakers who are on the call, who are looking to hire, you're not interviewing, they're interviewing you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
They are.
interesting. Okay, so let's talk about, actually one more, I just wanted to share one more comment about the COVID thing. I was actually talking to someone on my team who came onto our team in the last 2 years, and she's 25, and she said, I will never work in an office again. And I believe that my generation is going through a great awakening, and that we are looking for different things out of life as a result of what has happened. And I think she's spot on. I mean, that's exactly what we're seeing. And I think that's happening no matter what age that you are. So let's talk about signs. What are the signs? What do you see when, like, if I'm a rainmaker or I'm a director of ops and I've got ops people on my team, what should I be worried about? What should I be noticing and paying attention to?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to turn it around to you, because I think that you hear this. I think you know exactly what needs to be said here. But I'm going to tell you that if you're hearing the word burnout over and over again, and they're saying, I'm just burned out. I'm just burned out. Like, I can't get it all done. And you're hearing that language over and over again, that's defeated language, right? And we need to really pay attention to it, because it means that somebody is really truly considering their options, I think, right? And they will tell you, like, I just can't get it all done. Here's what we see all the time. And then, like I said, I'm going to kick it to you, Christy, but we see all the time leaders go, it's fine. Instead of going, okay, let's dig in. How much do we really have? What can I do? What can I take off? We're a team. Like, and one of the things that I hate is when we hear over and over again, I don't want the job back. They can't give me the job back. Like, give me a break. Sometimes we do get to a place where there's just way too much work and we haven't made another hire, or we're not aware that we need to make another hire. And we are taking somebody to the brink, breaking point, period. And so sometimes we might need to jump in and help and alleviate some of that. And so what do you think are some of those signs?
And I would agree with that. And we'll come back and give you guys the solutions to that. This isn't just a, complaint session. This is, what are we seeing? How should we pay attention to that? one of the things that I see is people start disengaging.
Yeah.
I see them giving up in terms of asking for time with their leader. They ask for time and they have inconsistent, the leader doesn't show up for meetings or reschedules or cancels. So they just kind of check out and they stop asking for time. They stop bringing new ideas to the table. They sometimes change in habits, I think. You know, maybe they're not showing up, like, oh, so-and-so for the first 3 years she was with me, like she never took a sick day and now she's been sick 3 times in the last month. And they may really be sick. I will tell you that I've had times in my life where I was physically ill and it was because of stress and I didn't realize it. So that's something to pay attention to. I think also I start seeing friction. There's that, like, you know, that person on your team that you used to get along with okay, and now they're just kind of prickly all the time. And what I see, the thought that's going through the ops person's mind when they start thinking about leaving is, I'm not who I want to be anymore. I'm not happy here and I want to be a better person, and this environment is not good for me. So maybe I should start looking for something else.
Or they feel like they're not good enough, right? There is another side to that too. They start beating themselves up, because remember the personality profile that most of the time is in this role. It is the person who's a people pleaser. They want to please. They want to get everything done. They're the ones who never showed up to class without homework, right? So if they're showing up and not having things done, they're killing themselves. Like, they're not happy with themselves already. I can promise you that. And so then fast forward to them showing up over and over again with not everything done and feeling constantly behind. I mean, then they start to question, well, am I right for this role? Am I good enough? And then that's when they start looking of, well, how many files does everybody else handle? Right. And we see all these posts all the time in all of these groups of, well, how many files can a TC close? Right? Because because they're questioning themselves.
Yeah.
And we forget about all the other tasks that go along with some of those things too. Like somebody wrote in here, I think it was Kayla, you know, that people are expected to wear 4 different hats, right? Manage this person, go sit with them all, but also close all the files, also do all the marketing, also make sure that you run our events. Like, how that's just a lot.
I want to add something at this point, because we're really coming down hard, I think, on team owners and entrepreneurs. I want to challenge the ops bosses on this call too. Own this conversation also. Don't just walk out the door. You have people who are putting themselves at risk to build a business, who have a lot on their shoulders as business owners. Go and have the conversations you need to have. And if you don't know how to have those, reach out to people in this community, Ops Boss or Ciprani Consulting, and people will help you with those conversations, because lots of times we see people can work through these conversations, right? I know there are people who leave because they're actually so good at what they do that they keep taking more and more on their shoulders until they're so overwhelmed. And then they just leave because they don't know how to have the conversation of, we need to hire leverage, or I need help. And the rainmaker doesn't always know you need that if you don't raise your hand and say, help, I need help, right?
Right.
So let's talk about some solutions.
Yes, which would be good. And that's something I want to remind everybody here too. Christy and I were in these roles, and then we transitioned to being the bosses in our worlds. And guess what? Now we make all the same mistakes that we used to get mad about. And so we get to wear both of those hats and know what both of those things feel like. And I do think one of the biggest things, and I'll say it again, if you are not having the conversations, if you're not sitting down and having those conversations, then that's the biggest problem. If you feel like you're gonna, you know, get in front of your manager or your boss and all you're gonna do is get emotional, then you need some coaching around that, and you need some help around that so that you can take it to the next level and say, okay, I don't need to be emotional. This is just a conversation. It's not a bad conversation. Here I am, I took on too much. And you need to know what the numbers are, right? We need to know what the stats are, right? So we need to know, how many files can you handle? And we should throw those numbers out, I think. And then, you know, what other things can I handle as well before I'm going to be at my breaking point, or before the average person is at their breaking point. And so when you go to the boss you have to go with a solution of, hey, you know, I believe, and what I've seen is that for the most part, people can handle 30 files per month. Whether that means I'm doing listing files and closing, or just closing, around 30 per month as they go. And there's normally about a 2-month cycle there, right? And so if we're getting 30 more each month and there's a 2-month cycle, we're around 30 to 60 files, right, at any given time. And so if I know that, then I can say to my boss, we're at this point now where I'm starting to go to 75 and I'm holding 80 and 90. It might be time to look at another hire, right? And if I come to my boss and say those words and I come with a solution, we're going to be better off, right, Christy?
Yep, 100%. So let's back up to the beginning, right? When you're getting into relationship. And if you're already in relationship and you haven't done this recently, have you had a conversation around expectations? What are the expectations of the role? Am I clear in my job description, the 20% of the role, and how we measure success in it, right? All of our roles have evolved over the past 2 years. I don't care if you're in the same role with the same title, things have changed. So, and then what are your expectations around communication? How are we communicating? Are we communicating on the weekends? Are we communicating at night? Am I communicating when I have a squirrel idea in my head? You know, right? Because that's how those of us who are entrepreneurs think. We're 24/7. Like, and there's no right or wrong answers there. There's just having agreement on the expectations of what that will look like. So if you haven't had that conversation with your ops boss or with your rainmaker, I highly suggest you do that. That's step one. One of the things that I did differently on my last hire, which I think's been really awesome, and I actually just, because of this conversation, Brooke's on the call right now, I rescheduled a task for myself to go back and review her user manual. So we followed, I think Adam Hergenrother and Hallie brought this up from another business to real estate. When I did a hire, I did a CEO user manual. And I forget how many pages, it's like 14 pages long. And it tells everything about me, how I think, how I work, how I communicate, when I vacation, like all the things, so that she could really understand what she was getting into when she joined our team. And one of the things on her in her first 30 days was for her to write her user manual. And it's as important for me to know how she thinks, how she works, what's important to her, as it is for her to know about me. So I literally just scheduled a task tomorrow on my white space day to go back and reread her user manual 60 days in to see, oh, how are we tracking with this, right? So it's about relationship.
That's right. And one of the other tools that I really like that I believe we should be doing at least every year, and right now I'm wondering if it's an every 6-month thing, because of working at home and all the different things, and just emotions are high right now. And I think stress is high because of COVID. So, but it is looking at 5 years from now, and I call it the priority box. Some people call it motivational box. If you're in the Keller Williams world, it's a part of the career visioning. But you draw the 4 squares and you always talk about career. What does the career need to look like 5 years from now for me to feel like this is exactly where I need to be and what I want? Where does the money situation of my life need to look like, right? Finances, investment properties, 401ks, whatever that person feels like they need 5 years from now to feel good and safe and cared for. And then what other 2 things are big priorities in their life that they utilize to make big decisions in their life, right? That could be friends, family, vacation might be something, you know, travel,
Health,
like
spiritual, yeah,
all of those things. And so, you know, we should continue to look at that, I think, Christy, every single year with our people, because it does change. And it's funny, somebody might be really focused on their spiritual life or their health for a little bit, and then they tackle some of that, and now they're focused on this instead, right? Their family and whatever. So I do think it's a good way for the boss and for the ops boss to really start to have some conversations around what's important. Now, I'm going to also tell you that I don't think it's okay for the boss to have to be the one who does it with the ops boss all the time and for that to not flip. So ops boss is on here, admin, go ask your boss if you can do that exercise with them so that you know what's important to them and where they're going, because then you guys can start to jive together. And that's very similar to what you were just saying with the CEO user manual and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about at this level, right?
Yeah.
When we're saying talent, you define it as 3 years or more in the real estate. You want to be in partnership with people, right? You're not just in business together, you're in partnership, you're in relationship, right? So you've
Yeah.
got to know, when I think back over some of the stories that we were telling earlier, many of them told me, my rainmaker doesn't really know what my personal goals are. Now that's bad on both of them, right? It's not rainmaker's fault or ops boss fault. My rainmaker doesn't ever ask me about my personal goals. So one of the solutions, and it's going to sound, it's not rocket science, it's so darn simple. I call it do the two. Are you doing the two? 2 meetings a week, 1 30-minute meeting for accountability goal setting. That should be around business and personal, not just business. And 1 1-hour business meeting that is owned by the ops boss. It's not the meeting for the entrepreneur to fly in and drop all their things. It's my meeting to drive the business forward and get what I need from you on my 20% or on whatever I need from you, right? I need help, I need ideas, I need decisions, whatever that is. And it's the thing, it mystifies me. I get it on the entrepreneur side, we're busy and we have a million things that come up at the last minute. But when you don't have those meetings, you're telling the most important person in your business that they're not important. And so that's an easy solution. Schedule those meetings out, and ops bosses hold your rainmakers accountable to being at those meetings.
Which, how do they hold their rainmakers accountable to that? What is a good solution for that, Christy?
I think they need to ask their rainmaker, first of all, whether they're giving their commitment. I actually have our clients put it on their 411 that they have 4 meetings a month with their rainmaker or whatever their goal is. So we are tracking numbers all year long. So they'll have like 45, their goal for the year is 45, and they can go back and show numbers, because I think rainmakers have great intentions. We do believe that they're important. We intend to be there, and then like life happens, things happen and opportunities come along. But if you can say a number, gosh, last month we had a goal of 4 and we only met 1 actual time. What's your commitment for this month? And how do you want me to hold you accountable when you don't show up? It'll be different for everybody.
It will be. And most of the time I would say that what we hear is just put yourself on my calendar, right? And I say that, I'm like, just, you see it, put yourself on. Now, if I blow through it, then that's an accountability conversation with me. Hey, was this not that important? What happened, right? Most of the time I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Or, this came up or whatever, right? I know how important it is. So I try to not have that happen. But if it does, then it's my responsibility to move it, right? Or theirs to move it again and just be like, I have it on there for tomorrow, right?
And that's where I was saying the signs of someone leaving is disengagement. When someone keeps bothering you and asking to get on your calendar and they stop asking, that's a sign of disengagement that they may be thinking of leaving. They may not even know they're thinking of leaving, right? It's just going to cause them. What other solutions?
Yeah. So, I do think that, I mean, we talked about expectations and I love that you said, you're how many months in and you're going to go back and reread that.
Oh, we're just about up to 60 days.
Okay. So 2 months in. And
I read it the first 30 days the first time. So this will be my second time.
I think going back over the expectations is within 6 months, like every couple of months, because I think we also forget that, whether we like it or not, we have love languages, like we have all these different things that we can kind of learn about each other. And I think at the end of the day, we are really focused on who we are and what we need. Even an operations person, right? Who am I? What do I need? And I think times we forget how to communicate with the other person and what their needs are. And so I do think it's important to revisit that regularly and revisit the expectations conversation, how I win with you, how I lose with you, until it starts to become something where you guys are thinking the same and you just know it, right? It's memorized. Those are things that I think really need to be
When you
revisited.
think about it from the business point of view, you have your ops boss come in, and one of the things they're doing is building touch plans, right? So of course they're going to build your buyer and seller touch plans, but they're also going to build a touch plan for your team, right? Are you touching your team? We have a great post on our blog, how do you 24 touch your team? But you as a business owner, what's your relationship plan with your ops boss, right?
Right.
Are you putting on your calendar, like take them out to lunch once a week, whatever? It's not about the lunch, it's about the relationship, right? How do you spell time, or how do you spell love? Time, right?
Right.
So
Right.
are we spending time? Here's a simple vehicle for a conversation. When you're having your once a week meeting, all my coaching clients are going to laugh because I'm always like, use the 1 to 10 question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about your role right now? How are you feeling about your job? How are you feeling about whatever the thing is on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm feeling like it's a 7. Okay, well, tell me more about that. 7 mean, what does that mean to you? 7, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, what would you like it to be? And what can we do to get you from a 7 to an 8 or an 8 to a 9? Easy conversation, right? You can have that with anyone on your team.
Yeah. And I'm going to flip that around too, Chrissy, and just say, for all the operations people that are here, I think one of the hardest thing, and we always tell people, read fierce conversations, go and read Dare to Lead with Brene Brown is like my very favorite. And I truly think that sometimes we need to learn how to have hard or fierce conversations, which really truly are conversations if we don't wrap meaning around them. Right. And I think a lot of times we really struggle with that. As operations professionals. And I will tell you that now being a boss in multiple businesses and having multiple people that rely on me, there are a lot of times when, I care so much about what's going on with them, right? And I'm watching language and I'm watching how they're showing up. And when somebody's showing up really stressed and using language all the time, I'm so busy, I'm working until 8 o'clock at night, and it's just constant. That my immediate thought is to go, do you hate your job? Are you okay? What's going on? Because I've been in that situation before. And so I thrust myself back into there. And I think a lot of bosses, that's our immediate thought. So I really want to challenge you. Like I said, Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. One of the things I really like is she has this whole thing called rumble language, and being able to have conversations around what's the story I'm making up in my head, or do I just need attention? And that's why I'm saying I'm working until 8 o'clock at night every night, or what is it? Right. And just being real with ourselves as workers, and having some of those different conversations.
Yeah, I love that, the script. The gap becomes because we're not doing the two. We're not doing those two meetings. So now there's a gap of communication. So now we tell ourselves stories. So when you get together with whoever it is you need to have the conversation with, here's what's happening. The story I'm telling myself is fill in the blank. I would let's talk about this so we can find out what the real story is, because we often don't know what the real story is.
Right.
I would say also, in terms of solutions, coaching, obviously I'm biased on that. And I will just tell you very candidly that we often have conversations with people in coaching about being unhappy, about being overwhelmed, about being stressed. And we can help them have the conversation with the rainmaker. We can role play with them, like, hey, let's role play this so you're more comfortable when you go in. Here's some strategies for how, talk about behavioral profiles, like which behavioral profile is the person you're having the conversation with, or high D. Okay, how about you approach it like this? So I think people often ask us when they're coming into coaching, what's the return on investment for me? And yes, there is a return on investment because they're going to do all the things to build the business. But one of the most important benefits I think people are seeing right now is retention, because those coaching conversations lead to actual conversations that mean we can work out the problems before my ops boss just leaves. Because I think this behavioral profile is often uncomfortable having those conversations, and it's easier to just wait till the frustration builds and leave.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say too, you know, with regard to training and having the systems and processes built, when you plug somebody in, you know, can talent come in and manage everything and learn it all and organize all the chaos and build all the systems and processes? Yes. Can they do it within 30 days? No. And is it easier for them to plug into, you know, a system or something like Ciprani Consulting will help you build some of those things out? You know, it does help when you actually have somebody that can like look at, okay, this is the contract to close, and these are all the emails that go along with it. And they can turn to you and say, hey, it tells me to do this. What is this, right? If we have something in place, just a few things.
Yeah, milestone markers along the way, so they're not randomly figuring out the path.
Yes,
right?
And that's why we've seen so many people too. I mean, there are people leaving after a couple of days because they have no coaching and they have no training. So I really, I mean, you know, that is what we do, but we truly do believe in it. And that's where the retention pieces go. So I love that Christy just said, hey, post your questions, because we do want to open it up. And we've got another 15 minutes. We can keep talking because there's plenty that we've prepped and there's plenty of things that we can continue to talk about. But I do want to make sure that you guys can message us. And I do have some direct messages too. So let me look at them really quickly. So, all right. And this is the question that we get all the time. And that's why we kind of started out with this in the beginning, but I'd like to know the expected salary range for a top-notch administrative manager. So let's define top-notch. What do you see as top-notch, Christy?
Top-notch to me is another word for it would be proven talent. Proven talent with results. Is that, if that's what they mean by top-notch talent, that's how I would define top-notch talent.
Yeah, and then I'm going to take that one step further, and proven results means in a actual conversation for recruiting them over, there needs to be proof. Like they need to be able to say, I used Trello to build my onboarding and here's what it looked like.
I added 500 reviews to my team. I generated 27 referrals. That was, you know, I used to generate 115,000 in GCI to my team through just referrals every year. There's an example. Okay.
So you've got to have actual examples when you're actually going through the interview. But yeah, so I think that let's talk about that. So salary range. Also know that I have to look at the entire country. There are pockets. So like where Christy lives is super expensive, right outside of DC. Like people will come to us and say, I want to hire somebody with some experience at 40,000. And we just literally exit the conversation now because
I had an agent in my office who is, I think he's on the ALC in our office, but regardless, he's a top agent. Hired an admin this year for $80,000 starting with 6 months experience doing a quote unquote a few transactions for another agent.
Yep. Yep. And that's in that area. So if you take out her area and, you know, DC and Seattle and all the places that are expensive, right? Because if you're in an expensive area, you're going to take my numbers and take them and make them 10,000 more, 15,000 more, depending on that. And there are salary finders that we use to see, like CareerStop has a great one that shows you what the averages are in your area. But for somebody with that kind of talent, the people that we were just talking about, we are looking at 60,000 across the country and up. Okay. And when I say and up, it can be a $60,000 salary. It could be a $55,000 salary. These people would like to make upwards of 75,000 with their bonus structure and pay in place. Okay, so that is.
The more years in the business, the more likely you're going to go up, up, up. So I told Lindsay before the call, I'm like, instead of quoting numbers, we should be quoting ranges. But
yeah, but people want to know the numbers.
People will see, and for proven talent, proven 3, 5, 10 years in the industry, you're going to see 6 figures. Sorry, I know Rainmakers, you don't want us to say this. We got messages from people asking us literally not to say this, but all we're doing is reporting to you what we're seeing. I think Tanya asked a really good question. How much of this is just a supply demand issue of the labor market? It's obviously that is a big factor, 100% factor. I don't think that's going away. And I believe this is something that has been building in our real estate industry for quite a while. And it's now just coming to a head.
I don't think it's going away either. To answer Tanya, your question. I mean, here's the thing. It's funny, you can look at hiring and everything going along with it with supply and demand right now, the same as housing. It's the exact same thing. So if I'm sitting here telling you that there's 60 jobs with about 15 people in them that have 3+ years of experience and can actually build systems and processes out, that's a big problem. And that means those people should be a lot more expensive. That's just the truth. And
pre this employment situation, pre-COVID,
yeah,
this role could earn 6 figures in many other industries. And so when we're competing for hiring, it has been competitive even prior to COVID. It's just more competitive now, Tanya. You could be, I mean, when I hired on my team, she's still with the team, she was making 6 figures with in another industry. And she could have stayed there, but she chose to come here for work-life balance because she wanted nights and weekends free.
Yeah.
But there has to be something you're offering to balance.
Yeah. And I have another question directly with regard to what if they're coming from outside of the industry, talented as a manager, but no real estate experience. So I have time and time again now hired managers that have a proven track record in managing multiple people, multiple systems, and you can see it, you can call references and hear it, and those are starting at 75,000 too, right? If you really come to me and you say, I need somebody who has a proven track record of managing lots of people, I can't do anymore, I really just need to be in sales, they build all the systems out, I am telling them like, hey, maybe we could get away with starting at 60 and seeing, but if you really want that proven talent, we're looking at 75. Oh, and hey, by the way, vacation matters. Yeah, don't slap 5 days on there. What are we even really talking about? Like that drives me bonkers. Like I can't even work with somebody like that. So you can't even work with Ciprani Consulting if you're going to come to me with 5 days vacation. That's just ridiculous. If you can't tell how annoyed I am by that, that's ridiculous. 401k.
The salary thing too, I will tell you, I get people like saying still in the year 2022, well, that's a $15 or $20 an hour task. Well, babysitters make $15 an hour. And now you want this person that knows technology, marketing, social media, you know, people skills, financial skills, all the things, and we want to pay them $15 or $20 an hour to run. You guys, in real estate, and I'm guessing, I see the teams that are on here, large real estate teams, we are running, if you are hiring an ops boss, you are hiring someone to run a $1 million or multi-million-dollar business, right? If you are a team with 5 million in GCI, your ops boss is running a $5 million business. Are you matching your actions and your activities and your pay to that, right? They have to line up.
I love the next. I don't even need to read that entire comment that just came up. I can't tell you how many times I hear, well, I called I called my broker. My broker told me 40,000 is fine. Or I called all these people and I'm like, that's so great. I'm so excited for you to go find your own person at $40,000. You let me know how that goes, right? That's the truth of the conversations that we're having right now. And they can call all the people in the world. And you know what? Maybe they did find somebody to take that job because guess what? Admin personalities are loyal, wonderful humans that sometimes don't fight for themselves. And sometimes they don't know what their worth is. And so, yeah, they get a job offer and they accept it and they get in there and then they don't fight for the raises and they don't fight for the bonuses and they stick around because they're loyal and they don't want to make a change. And then here we are calling each other to see what, you know, how much does it cost for somebody else? And yeah, that's what's happening. And so really, I do want to stress that they can call anybody and everybody, but at the same time, you know, they really need to think through, like, okay, so if Lindsay came in tomorrow, and you can have this conversation, if Lindsay came in tomorrow and was talking to me and could go get me a job for X amount, whatever you want, right? If she could go get me that, do you think I'm worth that or not? And then, but bosses, you have to say, can I pay that? Is it in my budget? Are they worth it? How do I feel about it? And it may not jive, right? Like, I only have so much money to work with in Ciprani Consulting.
I was just going to say that. So sometimes there's a mismatch because the business is not being run well, right? Do they have enough money to pay that salary? Maybe they don't. And so I will tell rainmakers who are on this call, I know that part of that interview process for talented people who are looking for opportunity is they're going to ask you to see your P&L. They want to see that you can actually pay them and that there's opportunity for them to grow your P&L. Right?
Yeah.
They want to know all your numbers. They're going to ask you all those things.
Yep.
Before they get in business with you.
Christy, this is a really good question. So this is a private message. Christy, what would you say to a rainmaker that states our profitability is what matters most, instead of raises or increases with
profitability? If you don't have profitability is everything. If you don't have profitability, there is no business. And Lindsay and I know this from having multiple teams on the Leader Equation podcast talk about having to let people go on their teams because they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these are teams you see on stage. Profitability absolutely matters. People over profits will provide profitability.
Yeah, and I would just say, you know, having that conversation of, okay, I hear you, and what am I doing myself to help with the profitability? And if I bring X, Y, and Z, could we talk about me getting, you know, a potential raise or whatever? Again, come with a solution, don't come with a problem. And then what's the average profitability percentage of a team? So the average that I have seen is really, really low and sometimes no profit. I mean, that is the truth. I think that if you are looking at the good teams and the ones that are striving to be on model, we're looking at a 20 to 30% range. Wouldn't you say that, Christy?
So the model would be 40% if Rainmaker's in production, 25 to 30% if the Rainmaker is out of production. And that is the model, meaning the goal, the ideal. What we see is often much less than that.
Right.
Now, Ops Boss, if you're a high level, people are talking about high level talent, your DOO or COO level, that should be your number one focus, is building profitability. That's your number one thing.
Yeah. These are all really good questions here. Reality check to read the other day. Yeah, I love this. It was a reality check to read the other day that Target in our area will be starting at $24 an hour for in-store workers.
And Lisa, you're Midwest, I think, right?
and that's also, so the bosses that are on here, that's what you're competing with, right? And that's part of the problem, is that if somebody can go get that job for the same amount that they can get with you, and they're having to wear a lot of different hats with you, it feels like there's less stress on that one. There's more stress with yours, and you don't have the 401k and you don't have benefits. Which one would you choose, right? I think that's what's happening. And a lot, we're hearing work-life balance. In our world, we don't feel like there really is any such thing as work-life.
I'm hearing work-life balance and lack of growth opportunity more than I'm hearing salary, people leaving.
Yeah. People
do get higher salaries when they leave, and that's not what is making their head turn when they hear an opportunity.
Yeah. And you know, if you're on here and you're listening somewhere, or you're listening later to a recording, and you were here because you wanted to figure out how to have the conversation to potentially make more money, again, come with, hey, if I can show us the path, or I can get more referrals by doing X, Y, and Z, and I can show that our profit goes to here and we don't make another hire, would you consider giving me money? I believe that I'll max out at this number and then we'll have to make another hire, and I'm willing to stay where I am there while we make the other hire, get us to here, and then could we talk about more money? Guess what? The boss is, I mean, if somebody came to me with that kind of land, I'd be like, yeah, you show me how to do that, do all the things, right? And I'd be like, great.
Well, and let's clarify, opportunity doesn't always mean money either.
Right.
I know multiple people who are looking right now, they want to grow. They want to be a director of operations where they're leading 4 or 5 people instead of 1 or 2 people. They want to go from director of operations to COO, so they have to learn leader, be a better leader, be pushed into uncomfortable. They want to be on a team doing 500 units instead of 300 units because you have to level up to lead a team of 500 units versus 300 units. So it could be opportunities also around partnering in other businesses, right? I'm going to help you build this business. And then I'm looking for, I want to be an entrepreneur. Many of the high level people, right? They want to build a business within a business. So how can I come alongside you, Rainmaker, and let's do something else together, right? If we're good partners. Those are opportunities that people are looking for also.
Yeah. I love this. Kayla just said they also want their Rainmaker improving and growing and learning new things too, which, keeps growth in the organization. That is so true, right? Like, that is something else that we hear a lot is like the leader has gotten to a place where they're comfortable. They're all right. They feel fine, right? They're not continuing to push. And I've talked to a lot of people that like, I have one person who said, hey, I wanted to be able to get the money to go to John Maxwell leadership training. And I really wanted to grow. And I thought that'd be a great opportunity. I think it's like $400 to go to that or something. And the leader wasn't willing to invest in that person to take them there. Well, I mean, that's, that wasn't a raise. It was a invest in me and my leadership. Right. And that's what you're talking about, Christy. And so I think we also see that we do truly, have a lot of people that they want to try their hand at doing something bigger. And so I guess I would leave you. Oop, did I freeze? I would leave you with, don't get upset if your ops boss does come to you and says that they want to take it to the next level. They want to grow to that next level and that they might be looking for opportunities. Figure out what other opportunities could be in your world and how do you guys do that together as opposed to just letting them go, right? Don't get upset. Acknowledge that makes me sad. How can I become that leader? How can we grow together to be that? And then push yourself and see if you guys can grow together, right?
And ops bosses don't wait for opportunity to come along. Yeah. Don't just seize opportunities, create your own opportunities. Go to your Rainmaker with the ideas. Hey, let's partner on this. If I do this, then you benefit and I create that win-win. Make it easy for them to say yes, right? It's not up to them to just hand you opportunity because you worked hard. You were hired because you worked hard, right? And you're hired because you're good at that and you got that job because you were the best at it. So add to the equation, come with the solutions, have the conversations that you need to have, and everyone's life will change, right? What was that thing Steph said at our first retreat? Nothing changes until the unsaid gets said. So if you have some unsaid, figure out how to have that conversation and change everyone's lives for the better.
100%. Hey, that's going to be where we end this. We could probably keep going forever. And I know that you guys have more questions. So here's the deal, Christy, how do they get in touch with you if they have questions for you?
So they can message me, Christy. Maybe, I don't know if Brooke's still on the call. Oh, it'll be a recording. Christy, CHRISTY at opsbosscoaching.com. You can also go on our website on our free resources. There, for those who are Rainmakers in the earlier stages, we have 5 mistakes people make when they're bringing their new hire on. So that may be helpful. And our website is opsbosscoaching.com. You can find our classes, group coaching, retreat, one-on-one coaching there.
Yeah. And then we're cipraniconsulting.com. I'm sorry for the spelling, Ciprani. And you can email me at the email there, Linzee, which is Linzee at cipraniconsulting.com. We will send this out to everybody, and we will make sure Christy will send it out from her, and then I will send it out from us. So that way you have some more information about us and what we do. Feel free to ask us questions. We're here to support you. We love this industry. This industry has built both of our businesses and our lives. And we have dedicated our lives to this industry because we love it. And we know that there's so many cool things that come out of it. And so at the end of the day, if you are here stressed and, you know, not loving real estate right now, just know that real estate's truly given a lot of us really amazing lives, and it can do the same thing for you. You just might need to have some rumble language, right?
And we don't just love the industry, we love you. So thank you guys all, Rainmakers, ops bosses, all of you guys for being here and having this real conversation. Linzee and I like to be direct. So thank you for that.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good day. Bye.